Hello, everybody. This is Out of Order. My name is Anthony Buono.
My name is Ben Mayer.
And today we are going to be talking about a new rule implemented by the Biden administration to speed up permitting.
Oh,
Finally.
amazing.
We have been talking about this for as long as this show has been around.
Yeah.
Literally. This is one of, if not the most important issue in America. We have become the build nothing country.
Yes.
Because we have overregulated ourselves into oblivion.
Yeah, I would definitely argue this is the most important thing. And when this rule came across my screen and I read the article about it, I was so happy.
We put out a video 2 weeks ago about permitting and all that.
Deep dive.
Literally, this rule is exactly what we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
This is exactly what we said. They must be watching us.
I hope so.
Literally, Joe Biden, thanks, brother, because thanks, brother. You have listened to us, and we are so grateful. So what is the rule? Okay. The Biden administration on Tuesday has released a rule designing to speed up permits for clean energy while requiring federal agencies to more heavily weigh damaging effects on the climate.
Yes.
So not only is this speeding up permitting processes for green energy, it's also now going to account for climate change in all future endeavors.
That is perfect.
It's
it is
perfect.
A dream.
It's literally the dream. And they say that projects that have demonstrated long-term environmental benefit will actually receive even more expedited environmental reviews or bypass them altogether.
Yeah, it's putting in new procedures for what are called categorical exclusions. That means there are certain ideas, certain proposals for projects that are in a category of they don't need an environmental review. And the reason this is so important is because these federal environmental reviews for big projects take an average of 4.5 years.
That's insane.
So these things that fall under categorical approval now can get built 4.5 years earlier. And what it specifically mentions in the White House release for this rule, solar storage, EV charging, transmission infrastructure.
Transmission line infrastructure is the most important thing. We have built almost no transition lines in the year of 2023.
Yes.
We need to build more transition lines in 2024 and beyond.
Yeah.
This is a massively important
huge.
rule. Again, this is one of the reasons that a Biden administration is significantly and objectively so different from a Trump administration. This is vital to the fight against climate change.
Yes.
It is dire how important this rule change is.
Yes, it's crazy. It's probably the most important thing we've talked about climate change wise ever on this show.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But this isn't popular with everybody. Republicans and Joe Manchin are not happy. Republicans and Joe Manchin have been working together.
Before we get to the politics,
Sure.
I just want to say a few more things about
Yeah.
the rule. So first of all, in addition to the categorical exclusions, it puts 1 or 2 year time limits on environmental reviews. So that's also a huge deal because, again, 4.5 year average,
Yeah.
right? You're shaving years off of the process.
Yeah.
It encourages programmatic reviews rather than manual reviews. So that's going to make things go faster. It promotes shared analysis by agencies. So they don't have to rewrite, or agencies don't have to redo the analysis that takes months and months and months that all add up. It also says, because it takes climate change into effect, projects with long-lasting beneficial impacts do not require environmental impact statements.
None.
So that's just enormous. Now we should get to the politics.
Now, before we go into the politics,
Never mind.
The Inflation Reduction Act was amazing.
Yes.
It had $350 billion of tax incentives that's specifically going to companies in order to build out this green energy infrastructure. But they can't even use the money because permitting has been such a problem.
Exactly.
So in order to actually implement the Inflation Reduction Act to the extent that it deserves and needs to be implemented, this permitting reform had to come with it.
Yes.
And now, finally, the Inflation Reduction Act is going to be able to actually start. The money from that program is finally going to start being used appropriately.
Totally.
Now, let's get into the politics.
Okay.
So Joe Manchin and the Republicans have been working together on this bipartisan basis to try to get a permitting reform bill. And they are not happy about what the Biden administration has just done. Joe Biden and the Republicans wanted to cut down the amount of permitting time, but they wanted to cut it down for all energy, for green, for dirty black coal energy, everything. Democrats were pretty hard-lining saying no. And Ben and I were in a difficult position because it's like, listen, if Biden is going to be the president in next year, then maybe the Joe Manchin Republican plan isn't that bad. But God forbid there's a Trump administration, and then there's this program of, free reign with oil, gas, coal. Then no, we can't allow that.
No.
And so now finally, Joe Biden has put us safely out of that. Joe Biden has said, no, we're going to go our own way. We've changed the permitting processes. We don't need to allow for oil and coal to make permitting reform.
Yeah.
But yeah, you finish.
Well, I was reading Manchin's statement. There's nothing. All he says is vaguely that this is going to slow down the process more. There's no explanation about how, which means my interpretation, like yours, is just that it's not going to help the process for fossil fuel infrastructure.
Yeah.
Which we like. Which is good.
Screw fossil fuel infrastructure. I don't care.
Yeah.
This was Joe Manchin's quoted statement here. Once again, the administration disregarded a deal that was made, the intent of the law that was signed, and are instead corrupting it with their own radical agenda. This will only lead to more costly delays and litigation. Maybe if you're a coal baron, then yeah, you are going to be costed out and litigated to oblivion. You will be.
But otherwise, a 2-year time limit on environmental reviews, there is no way that is going to be costlier and cause more delays. It makes no sense at all.
Also, I'm sorry, is that radical? Radical. With the radical agenda, he says.
Yeah.
The radical agenda of lowering permit times from 4.5 years to 2 max. God, how radical.
I kind of like it because this is just an executive branch rule.
Yeah.
So it will go under the radar. So this is never going to hit the press.
No.
It's like a radical climate rule.
No.
Even though it's going to be massively effective.
This is what climate warriors need to understand about the Biden administration, is that the people he appointed are doing the work, guys. They are doing the work. This is how we get out of this whole nightmare alive.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you for watching this episode of Out of Order.
I can't believe you made it to the end.
If you like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you really like us, check us out on Patreon.
This week, one of our videos is about Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, and his tours to China and the Middle East.
Our other video is talking about Biden's new regulations in school meals about sugar and sodium content.
And then this week, we did a deep dive into why the U.S. and European economies are diverging so much.
Thanks, guys. See you on the next episode.